And my mental health is not great right now.
Yes. You think Satans are locked up and crazy people walking naked in your road.
And mental health. Hi guys, welcome back to Anna Unscripted. Today we have a special guest, which is my therapist.
Hi Anna.
Nick, I think you should introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. So my name is Nicholas Voisin. I am a counseling psychologist and used to be a regional controller for a small company. I've been doing this now for 10 years post-qualification, and I really enjoy what I do.
So I actually came to Nick because of my mental health. So I think it was only fitting that our first episode be on mental health. So I think we should go into a deep dive into it, because I think there's a lot of stereotype about mental health, and we kind of throw around the phrase saying my mental health is not great right now.
Yes.
And I think we should really deep dive into that.
Great. I think we come from a culture where mental health was not a phrase that people embraced. Anytime you thought anything about mental health or not being mentally well, you think Satans are locked up and crazy people walking naked in your road. That is not what mental health and wellness is about at present. Mental health and wellness is about how you function day to day, making sure there's balance in your life, making sure you can manage the situations that come to you, the good ones and the bad ones. A lot of people think that going to therapy is about learning how to manage the difficult situations. It's not. Going to therapy is learning to heal so that you can enjoy the happiness.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I remember when I first found out about you, it was through a mutual friend, and she said, like, you know, she's going to therapy. But on the outside looking at her, I'm like, but she doesn't need therapy. And it was only until a little while after hearing conversations about her and another friend, I was like, wait, maybe I need to go to therapy.
Yeah, because we think therapy focuses on just crazy. So when you can't handle it, or you're breaking down in the office and you're falling apart, or you're walking around, no, it's not that. Therapy is also about trying to unravel things that confuse you, trying to allow yourself to feel and experience the feelings that you do. Sometimes just having a neutral voice to talk things through with. A lot of times we have ideas that form in our head that are only partially formed, that we don't want to go to our spouse and say, hey, you know, I don't think this relationship working. You want to get divorced? That's not going to go well.
You know what? I think if I didn't go to therapy, I would have been that type of person. Like, I say straight off the bat. And now that I'm in therapy, I realize that I say my thoughts out loud that sometimes should just stay in.
Sometimes they need a little filter, yes.
Yeah, no. So I think therapy really helped me to get that boundary and know that I think I need to talk to my therapist and not to the person about it.
And even that, you know, sometimes I had I suppose a compliment paid to me by one of my clients who said, you know, Nicholas, you and my gynecologist have to live forever. I'm like,
I agree.
No, that's not how that works. Yeah, I get it, but the idea is if I do my job well, eventually you will graduate therapy, so to speak. And you know, you don't have to come to therapy regularly anymore. You get to a point where you don't need to check in all the time.
And I want to come back later on in this episode about that.
Sure.
Because it's interesting that you brought that topic up. Because recently I was talking to another group of people and we were talking about therapy.
Yeah.
And somebody else was like, yeah, I go to therapy. And everybody was like, why all of y'all go to therapy? And then I was like, you know, your therapist breaks up with you. And everybody was like, wait, what? So I want to go back to that later on in the episode. But what are the symptoms that you should look out for to know that, hey, I should probably go talk to someone?
I think one of the biggest, the most glaring ones is everybody telling you, hey, you need to talk to somebody. As well, if you find you are experiencing very strong emotions, or you're having frequent conflicts with people, you are struggling in some way in your relationship, even if it's not your romantic relationship, your family relationships, or your work relationships, you have difficulty navigating there for some reason. All of those are good reasons to come and see a therapist. If you're trying to figure out what your passion is in life, talk to your therapist. Your therapist has no skin in the game. They have no agenda other than getting you to your goal.
And is there like an age limit?
There's really, well,
On a certain age that you should start at?
So I only see adults generally. On the odd occasion, I'll take an older teenager, but I usually only see adults. But therapy can start from very, very young, 3, maybe 4, for people who do child psychology, and that's a very specialized field. Because we can experience trauma at any age. You can have difficulties at any age. And sometimes at 3 or 4, you present with learning difficulties or disorders that can be treated from that early. And so no, there isn't really a lower end. Once you're old enough to navigate the emotions, to have them and to need to know how to control them, yes you can.
And we often say that our mental health is not good, or like when you're talking to a friend and they say something crazy like, oh, you need to go to therapy. I feel like often now I hear everybody like, oh yeah, I need to go to therapy, and like make it into a joke.
I blame TikTok.
Agreed.
Yes, there's way too much.
We're self-diagnosing it.
Yeah. And while I like those little snippets on TikTok, sometimes the problem is because you're not a therapist and you don't have the fullness of the understanding, you diagnose yourself wrongly. Or you say, oh yeah, this is me, and you apply a fix that is not for you. The reason you come to a professional is to get a set of tools that is tailored to you. So you might be trying to journal, and I get this with a lot of clients. They're journaling. Oh yes, I heard journaling is good. Wonderful. Why are you journaling?
I mean, in all fairness, I still journal.
Sure.
Before I came to you, I used to journal. And actually reading back on my journals the other night when I came across it, I realized my writings changed over time.
Yes. And that's the thing. I don't have a problem with journaling per se, but very often it needs to be directed. If you just write it on what you think and feel every day, great.
And I did that and it didn't help.
No.
It turned into scribbles in the book.
Because you're not seeing the point in it and you're not seeing the patterns. The idea is to look for the patterns. The idea is to help you process what's going on. If I had a bad day today and I had a freak out in the office, I burst into tears for some reason because somebody did or said whatever. Why did I burst into tears? What is it about that interaction that bugged me? Is that an appropriate response? Is there any other way I could have responded? Could I have held on to that until 4 o'clock in the afternoon and cried in the car? Yes, you could. Yeah? That's what journaling is supposed to help you do. Or you realize when you look at it, ooh, every time I engage with this particular person, this is my response. Why is that? Maybe they look or sound like somebody who's hurt you in the past and they're triggering you and you don't even realize. But the journaling will now tell you, ooh, every time I engage with this person, this happens.
But it's interesting you say that, because what I started to realize with my journaling and then with therapy was that I would go into my journaling about specific persons or specific situations, and that was the only time I'd really write in my journal. There was something great could happen in my life and the entry would probably be like 2 lines. And then actually being in therapy now, I realize like, oh, okay, this environment is triggering me, this particular person is triggering me, this situation keep reoccurring with different people, like why? So I think therapy really had to play like a big part in identifying like that situation.
That's exactly what it's supposed to do. And you didn't do that with me, you did that all by yourself. And that's the point. You come here and you learn the tools and you take the tools back out and you use them, and then they help you in your life. It's not come to me every day and say, Nicholas, so this is what happened, what do you think? It doesn't really matter what I think. I don't have to live the life you do.
But something else I want to talk about.
Sure.
So when I decided to come to therapy, it was because I started to have like breakdowns in every aspect of my life. So it was relationship, work at the time, and the people around me that was basically spending time with me often was like, I think you really should go talk to Nick. Like, you're crying a lot, like you can't explain what's going on. So it was the people around me that was in therapy was able to identify that, hey, what's happening right now? You're gonna hit like a mental breaking point. At the time I was just like, let me just follow him on Instagram and see if maybe something resonates and I should go there, until like I had reached my breaking point that day to reach out and be like, I need to come and see you like now.
Yeah.
So how could you, if you don't have people around you to tell you, how could you make that step for yourself? Because I tell people, hey, if you want to go to therapy and you're not too sure, follow Nick. See first if he resonates with you, and then maybe reach out and you know, maybe it will work for you, maybe it wouldn't work for you. Because some people say therapy never worked for them and they're like against it completely.
I get that. And now I know why so many people are stalking me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just kidding. Because I do have a lot of people who come and say they've been looking at my page for a long time and then they finally make the step. The people who, and I'll back into some of that, the people who say therapy didn't work for them, either they weren't ready or the fit wasn't right. I am not everybody's cup of tea. And I know that. And that's okay. Because we don't match doesn't mean therapy is not for you. It just means you haven't found the right connection. Because therapy is a relationship that develops very quickly and for very specific purpose. The client has to trust the therapist very quickly in the arrangement for it to work. So if you don't trust me, you're not going to allow me to confront you. You're not going to tell me the difficult things that you need to tell me for us to work through. So if that doesn't happen, the person doesn't resonate with you for whatever reason, there are lots of reasons, and that's fine. Just try somebody else. And you're right, just check a lot of therapists on social media now. Check their profile and see if you like what they're saying. Talk to people who may have said they engaged with them previously. Get a little feedback and see, try it. What's the worst that can happen?
And what are some reasons? Well, okay, so people obviously, some other people say they go to therapy because of relationships or maybe, I guess, their mental health. What are some of the reasons why someone should really see a therapist?
Oh, for all kinds of things. Relationships. So depression and anxiety seem to be the bread and butter of a lot of practices because the society does not teach its members how to manage their emotions well. So we have a lot of people struggling with depression and anxiety for lots of things because of trauma, because of economics, their social circumstance, their economic circumstance, their relationship has fallen apart, they have poor self-esteem, they're trying to figure out what their purpose is. I have lots of professionals who don't like their profession. I have lawyers who don't like law, doctors who don't like medicine, and they were trying to figure out now, what do I do? And all of those conversations, it's very hard to have that conversation with your parent after they spend $1 million to put you through medical school and go, I really don't like medicine.
Yeah, for sure, because as a parent, I might spiral too.
Yeah, you might have a bit of a moment with that. Yeah, but you're not here, with all due respect to the parents, to live mommy and daddy's life. You're here to live yours. And if that is not your purpose, then that's okay. Find your space. And navigating it through here, coming to terms with that. So you mightn't stop being a doctor, but maybe there's another way you expend your energies to fill that passion. Those are just some. If you just want somebody to talk to, sometimes you have lots of ideas floating around. I have creative people, for example, who struggle with deadlines or having difficulty with their creativity, helping them structure their lives a little differently. You can't imply too much structure to creative people because they need, you guys need space to do your thing. Yeah?
Agreed.
But you also need a system that delivers because we live in the real world, and if you can't pay your bills, it don't matter how creative you are, that don't make any sense. So they need just enough structure where they can deliver on time, but not so much structure that it stifles your creativity. So helping them find that balance sometimes is part of the job.
And while we talk on that, I'm going to touch on men's mental health.
Yes, the bane of my existence.
Yeah, do you tend to see, and this, I don't know, might be confidential, but do you have more male clients or more female clients? No, my
clientele is 99% female.
And I feel like a lot of men need to go to therapy.
Yes, but unfortunately, we are told big boys don't cry. So we don't. Ever. Unless your football team lose or somebody dead, in which case that's alright.
I don't even think when somebody died, they cry.
Well, not even then sometimes.
Mostly it's if their football team loses.
Mostly, yes, correct. Unfortunately, what that statement does is tell that young man. No, and it's not done, understand, I'm not saying parents do this with malice. They're trying to make the young man into a man. They're trying to mold him into a man. But unfortunately, what that translates to is that I am not allowed to express hurt. I'm not allowed to express anything other than happy, angry, hungry, and maybe horny when you get a little older. So when I'm hurt, when I'm embarrassed, when I'm ashamed, I'm not allowed to express those things. So I joke with men when I do talks to men's groups or even marriage preparation. I tell the couples, ladies, your husband can tell you with great detail about the first young lady that broke his heart. Because that one real hurt.
It's true.
Yes. And he couldn't tell his partners. I couldn't go and cry to my partners. But he cried for that one. He drank with the partners, but he didn't tell them there were tears.
It's interesting you say that, because I think out of the men that I've dated, I could tell you why they got their heart broken the first time. But nothing else as deep as that.
No, we remember the first one because that one, that was the first cut. And we remember that one with great specificity. Hopefully, if it's a marriage preparation class, it's not the same lady he married now, but you know. But after that, we suck it up. You can't go and cry to the boys and say, listen, this real confusing me and thing, and they're like, dude, man up, just woman like bust, you'll get another one. We go and drink a thing. Why you think bars open all the time? Not because we like rum. Because bars help you numb your emotions. So we do that regularly, and then we bump into one of y'all and we in love, whatever that means, and y'all are asking us to be emotive. And for the last 20, 30 years, I've been trying not to do that. So how am I supposed to navigate that? How am I supposed to be a man and not cry, but have all these soft feelings that you want me to have?
And it's conflicting for a woman. Because it's interesting, because if we play that game where we're like, oh, we're hurt, so we're going to put up our walls, you're like, why are you doing that for? But it's acceptable for the man to put the walls up and not really communicate because of his past.
Because that's what we've been taught to do. That's what society wants us to be. Women generally want their men to be strong. They want them to lead, not in a dictatorial fashion, but in a sacrificial manner. But they want them to provide the structure. You can't do that if you're falling down at every decision. You have to be able to say, this is what I want, this is what I want to do. And often we say, it doesn't matter what I feel, this is the choice I have to make. That is never a good decision. The best decisions are wise mind decisions. Wise mind, where you make the choice in the fullness of your emotion. You understand what you feel. So, for dramatic effect, if you and I are in a relationship, but it is very tumultuous, I might love you with everything that I have, but this not working. Somebody has to say, hey, babe, I love you, but this not working. We cannot be together. Because every time we are, police involved, the neighbors commenting, whatever is wrong with our interaction, somebody has to say that. And that's the wise mind decision. That's not just logic, it's not just emotion, and we'll stick it out and we'll make it work. They're doing the same thing over and over. Somebody has to say, this is not it, this is not happening.
As a woman, we could identify like when a significant other or like a sibling or friend as a guy needs help. And we're like, oh, you should go to therapy, you know, like you're drinking too much, you're numbing your emotions, you should speak to someone. But how do you get that person? Two things. How do you get that person to go to therapy and actually be open to it? Because like, again, you can't force someone to go to therapy if they're not ready. But then as a man, how do you accept that, hey, I really need to see someone? Because I think as a woman, it's easier for us.
Because you have the experience of speaking to someone else. The only reason our jobs work, therapist jobs work, is because all human beings are built to be happy. We're not built to suffer. So when we're in pain, we naturally want to reach out. We do that in different ways. We misbehave, we drink too much, we think, because we don't have the words to say it. Because you all are women and it is a lot easier for you all to connect with someone and exchange those words, exchange those emotions and get some support, it's a lot easier for you to do. You have feelings about everything all day, not so? I have like
feelings.
2 or 3. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3. The average man will tell you, I've got 2 or 3. When he comes home and says, you ask him, how was your day? And he says, fine. He literally means that. Nothing moved the needle. Yeah, but I'm sure you go in there, somebody's hair is nice, you wear the same outfit you have, and there's a whole scene. We go in there, somebody wearing the same outfit we have, like we have a friend. Yeah, doesn't move the needle the same way. But if you don't have that experience of sharing in a safe way and getting positive response, you're not willing to take the chance to go into therapy. And a lot of men think therapy is about sitting there and talking about your feelings and crying and weeping and getting soft and not being manly. That's not what it's about. It's about managing those feelings that we push down. Because the mistake we make is thinking I can be happy but push away my anger, my sadness, my disappointment, my all of those things. That's not how that works. Feelings all come together. So if you dial down one, you dial down all. It's much better to learn how to manage them, to learn how to express them. If every time you get angry you have to mash up something, cuss and get on, and it means you don't have other ways of expressing what you're feeling. And anger is not a crazy people emotion. Anger is an emotion of protection. It comes up when we feel we're under threat, and it is designed to protect us from that threat by creating distance or engaging with it very frontally to get it away. So if you have hurt me, I'm going to be angry with you because my brain, my mind, my spirit is going to want to protect me from the source of that hurt and that pain. So it's going to want to create distance here and push it away. That's why when you see couples fighting, they get further and further away and the argument gets louder and louder and more aggressive. If they come closer together and, for example, he holds her hands, one, that keeps her from hitting him, but also maintains the connection, and it keeps the volume down, it keeps the connection. And it's really hard to be really aggressive with someone who's hugging you or holding you or caressing you. So it keeps it low, but that's not what we do. We pull apart, and that distance is created by the anger, which we let lead because we're trying to win, not resolve the problem.
So if you're in this situation, because recently I saw it where, you know, a guy committed suicide and his friends was like, oh, like why he didn't reach out, why he didn't come to us, like we're always linemen, we didn't know how as fellows you could check in on other fellows. Because often too I hear guys say, well, I need to talk to a therapist about this, I'm always in the bar line with my friends, like I can always talk to my boys.
They say that, but we don't, because frankly we lie. I'm not gonna, if I'm lying with a group of people and I don't think it is safe to say, I don't feel good today, I'm not feeling well, I can't manage this, because the response are gonna be, man, that mamby-pamby thing, or drink a beer now you're gonna be fine, and next one coming. That's not helping me deal with it. You're just putting a plaster on the issue. You're not helping me deal with it. If I don't feel safe to share those things, I'm not going to do it. And that, I don't necessarily blame the friend group, because that's a very complex situation. But people who make the ultimate decision to end their lives is because they see no way forward. They don't see any way of it getting better, and that is never true. There's always a way forward. We don't see it now because we deepen it, but there is always a way forward.
Another friend, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna meet up this friend, like he's going through XYZ, like he chooses to speak to me versus like climbing with the boys. Great. How as men now we could, because as women we go to our woman friends and we talk and we vent the minute something happens, right? Versus as males, how can we look out for like our guy friends and create that safe space for them?
So men, first of all, need to move away from this idea that therapy and mental health is just Satan's and craziness. Mental health is all the good things that help you navigate. And if my friend is having a bad day, if my friend is having a bad month or year, that's okay. It doesn't mean he's crazy. I need to express that love that I have for him by supporting him through it. And if that means, hey, I don't know what the answer to this question is, maybe you need to go to someone who's professional to give you some tools, because I don't know what the tools are. That's okay. And it doesn't have to be everybody. It doesn't have to be the whole friend group. It can be one, maybe two people in there who are safe enough to be honest and open about their experience, and to get some information about what mental health and counseling and therapy is actually about. It's not Dr. Phil. It's not Jerry. Those guys actually started out as legit therapists and realized they have more money and drama. So they do that. That is not what therapy looks like. Therapy sometimes is very boring. As you know, just two of us sitting here talking about irregular stuff. And then you make a joke and I go,
Something is clearly triggering underneath there. Let's deep dive.
Let's talk about that. Yes, because we do that. Sometimes we cover it up with humor, and we like to call it dark humor, because that is a safe way of fishing for attention. So I can throw it out there and say, yeah, better if I wasn't here, and see how people respond. And they laugh and they let it go, but they don't realize that's a serious comment. Looking for purchase. People tell you so much about themselves if you pay attention. You just listen, you hear it. I hear a lot of times my clients start a sentence and they go, Nicholas, I know this is going to be stupid, but I'm like, well, why are you telling me it's stupid before you say it? Do you get the impression that I have any problem telling you that I was stupid? No, so why are you doing that? Because we've developed this habit of putting ourselves down. And it comes out in your speech. So that dark humor, that negative humor is that person very often trying to tell us something and looking for purchase. A lot of our plays are comedies because the population receives comedy well. So you can put very serious topics in comedy and the population will come to it. If you do it as a very serious dramatic play, you may not get the same kind of reception.
And it's just, and you brought up the play part, because somebody I was reading on Facebook said, have you all not realized that most males that are comical, like most comical people are males? And someone commented and said, yeah, because they like to cover their pain. And I was like, that's very interesting, and nobody really comes to realize, because then you take this person as somebody funny, and then you for yourself are like, oh yeah, well, they are living their best life, they always laughing and joking, but actually those people probably might actually need someone.
And part of that mechanism is they start looking at things, their problems, the world, society from different angles, trying to figure out their own issue. And humor is actually a tool you use in therapy to make light of things that really don't need to be that serious, or to help you realize that I was really overdoing it on this. They do that exactly as you pointed out, to get that purchase, for somebody to realize, hey, you're really struggling with this. And we don't, we just take it as humor.
And right now there is actually a TikTok trend, I don't know if you saw it, where people are like, thanks, haha, I'm funny because, and then they list all their trauma as to, okay, this is why I'm so funny now, because I've dealt with all these things in my life that made me this funny person. And every time I look at that trend, I'm like, everybody's jumping on this trend, but they don't realize how deep this actually is.
Yes.
That as humans, we all actually fight in a battle that we just don't want to talk to anybody about.
Yes. And to make it, to put a fine point on that, as I said, 99% of my clientele is female. I've had young ladies, young women, older women sit on my couch and tell me with a smile or a giggle on their face about the first time they were assaulted. I'm like, that's not funny. Do you realize what happened to you? And they don't, because that's been their response to help them work through the emotions. Because if I admit how bad this is, I might lose it.
I think also you can admit, when I now started to come here, I laughed at everything.
You did.
And then I realized that, okay, when things should have been serious, I found jokes and humor, and I still do it sometimes, and I'm like, that is not healthy at all.
It's a coping mechanism to give yourself time to manage it, to give yourself an out. Because if you stand there and really say, oh no, that hurt me, it might not get the response or the reception that you're looking for.
Maybe that's why the saying came about, if you don't laugh, you'll cry about it.
Sometimes, yes.
So you might as well just laugh. But before we wrap up, I want to talk about breaking up with your therapist. Because I know the first time I heard it, remember, I came to my therapy session and I said, so are you going to break up with me too? So now when people tell me they're in therapy, I'm like, eventually you break up with your therapist, right?
So we don't call it breaking up with your therapist. We call it terminating the intervention. Yes? In short, therapy is supposed to come to an end. And yes, sometimes clients get attached. I've had clients confront me, and because we're talking about ending therapy, I had one young lady, I remember, put down her handbag and turn around and go, Nicholas, are you trying to break up with me? I was like, it's not you, it's me, I just need a little space.
I think I would have a huge meltdown at and we'd need to restart.
But yes, therapy should come to an end because you should receive the tools and skills and strength you need to live your life. It does not mean you can never go back to your therapist. You're not breaking up with them so you don't have to block and delete. Yes, it just means the regular engagement no longer needs to be there.
And why is that?
Because you're well and you can handle it.
So if hypothetically we're speaking, I come to you about like a toxic relationship, and I go back into another toxic relationship, what you're trying to say is I should be able to use the tools that you taught me in the first toxic relationship to prevent the second one. But
Correct.
let's just say hypothetically I'm seeing the traits happening again. That's when you reach out and say, hey,
sure, you can
it's
check
a
in and
cycle.
say, hey, it looks like I'm doing this again. And you can have a quick intervention to reaffirm what you know and confirm that the decision making you're using makes sense. And you say, yeah, I shouldn't be doing it correct. Okay, I'm good. We don't need to have 6 months of weekly therapy for that. That can be a quick check-in. So when I said, that's why I don't want to call it a breakup, because you don't have to block and delete people. But the regular intervention no longer needs to be there. You have enough tools. If there's something you're struggling with, because it's new, you can always swing back and say, hey, can I do a quick session? We need to, you do 1, you do 2 or 3, and you go back because you have the tools. It's just a refresher.
Makes sense. But also we see people breaking up their therapists as well, right? I mean, I was guilty of that.
Well,
when I realized you were telling me things I did not want to hear, I was like, okay, I need a break. You know?
Well,
so how to treat that? Like, okay, so how as a person you deal with that?
Well, from the client standpoint,
like, what is the advice you should tell us? Because that's when we should be coming more, right?
I said we should be coming more. Talk about the breakup. Talk about the termination with your therapist. Don't just decide I'm not going back.
Yeah, but most times we don't come back or we take a break because we know what you're saying, we're not ready to hear it.
And that's
right?
okay. Talk to them about that. Tell them about that. And you can work through that because there's something pushing that particular narrative. And that might be what you want some help with at the moment. But, you know, I laugh because, again, my clientele, mostly female, what happens is we'll be going well, and then she falls in love with somebody, she don't tell me about that, and then I don't hear from her for 6 months. And then there's the first big fight, and then I get an urgent call. Nicholas, it's falling apart. I need to fix this. I'm like,
I feel like that's 98% of us.
But it's happened so often. It's just funny in my head because I see the pattern.
And that is why I tell my friends, like when they come here or like people that come here, I'm like, you need to tell Nick everything. I think I tell Nick too much, but like you need to tell, as soon as you start talking to someone, you need to tell Nick, because that is going to trigger so much for you, or it's going to be something that, even if you go on one date with a guy, like you need to mention it, because along the line you might figure out why you actually went on this date with a guy, something he did trigger you. I don't know, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Should they tell you everything? Keep it a secret?
You'll tell me way too much everything, but sometimes the nitty-gritty of the detail is not always important if I understand the context. Yeah. Again, we've gotten to a stage in society where we're pretending we're not made the way we're made. So we're taking on roles or trying out roles that we're not supposed to have. Men and women are built differently. They function differently. They engage the world differently. You all are wonderful and interesting creatures. You know that if you go out with a dude once, twice, by the third one, you've already made up your mind in the back there somewhere that this is my guy. And I'm not dating anybody else. He out there running birds all over the place because the conversation was we just dated. And that's in his mind. but you have already settled because the biology is telling you I'm aligning to this guy, he's treating me well. I'm already starting to say, he might be the baby daddy. And yes, hopefully not in that particular order, but yeah, I'm already aligning to him, and that happens because I need him to choose me and take care of me and my offspring before the whole wave of people jump on the bandwagon. Yes, I understand things are different now because of the economics and the structure of society, but your biology does not change that fast. Your biology, the imperatives there come from way, way before our societies were structured the way they are now. So usually women want to follow a man's lead. And I'm not saying that as you have to be tied to the sink, and that's not how it is. Y'all are this wonderfully emotional, flowing thing, and we tend to bring a lot more structure, and that works. But we have drunk a lot of the Kool-Aid from our friends in North America, and we have strong, independent women who don't need a man for nothing, but yet put in radiator coolant in the oil intake. But don't need us for anything, sure. And when you break those rules, then you get pushed back. It's a disorder that doesn't work. Can we navigate the new paradigm together? Yes, but it has to be together. And understanding how we interact, which is why when there's a breakup, it's so hard to let it go. Because all of the biology is aligned at saying, well, my future is with this man, I'm going to have his children, I'm going to do family and thing with him, and that's hard to let go of. By right, that's how love works. Love is not like Hollywood. It's not a pothole. You don't fall in and out. It's a very serious decision we make to choose the good of this person for this person, even at my own expense. That does not just stop. I don't fall out of love with you. That's a Hollywood invention.
Sum it all up. If I come to you to therapy, do I need to be completely honest about every single thing and tell you every single thing?
You don't need to tell me every single thing. I'll ask you about the stuff that is important and germane to what we're discussing. But I would say, if you feel the need to hide away a certain fact or a certain sequence of events, ask yourself why. Chances are you need to share that.
And I decided to do something fun and ask everyone on Instagram if they had the opportunity to ask you one thing, what it would be. So we'll answer one of those questions before we wrap.
Sure.
And I think the best one is how to start therapy. There's a lot I need to unpack, but no clue where to start.
One, find a therapist that you like and let them lead the charge. They're going to have an intake process of some kind. I have a form that I use to help guide and focus the effort. That's going to help the therapist start the process. Because you're right, a life is a lot to pack into an hour or two. So that whatever their intake process is going to help inform what you want. But it should take a little bit of consideration. Sit and ask yourself, what is the thing that I really want help with? You might not get the root of the issue, you might see the branches. So my relationships are bad, I want to fix my anxious attachment style. You don't just fix the attachment style. The attachment style comes from an issue, and that issue is my self-esteem. If you work that out, you find some tools, you've solved the problem. But you can start with, my relationships are tumultuous and I want to fix that. The therapist will help you get to the root of it.
And he'll help you unpack. So Nick, thank you so much for talking to us about mental health. And you guys could follow him. I'll link all his social media below. And you could stay tuned for our next episode because we'll definitely unpack relationships.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody.